All right, so this has been recorded. Okay, so let me welcome us once again. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Our guest speaker is right here with us. We are also expecting more persons. So, like I was saying, I said, why do we do this? This topic, the focus is very crucial to me. And it is crucial to me because personally, I have realized that teachers don't have many options. Okay. And by that, I mean you are either in the classroom as a teacher or you are in the boardroom. And by that, I mean if you are in the classroom, then it means you are in the infantry, you are in the implementation phase, okay? But you're not necessarily in the decision-making environment. So in the classroom, you are implementing policies and decisions made by some other educators, okay? However, the other option is to be in the boardroom. And in the boardroom is full of decision makers. Sometimes, many times, stakeholders, people making education policies and all of that, and then ensuring that those policies are being implemented in the classroom or outside the classroom. I know somebody's thinking, oh, teacher trainers. Teacher trainers, as far as I'm concerned, could also be grouped under the boardroom. Okay. And many times you discover that because personally to me, because that is my own personal classification in the education sector. So we would discover that there seems to be much more taking place in the boardroom than in the classroom. Okay. Let's talk finances. You would discover that those in the boardroom seem to be more comfortable than those in the classroom. Should we all be in the boardroom? Not necessarily. But should our being in the classroom, should it put us at a disadvantage? It shouldn't. We must not allow it. If we allow it, it could be a disadvantage. Okay, so that's why we mustn't allow it. So what are the things we can do to ensure that while being in the classroom, okay, being in the classroom does not affect us emotionally, materially, and in other aspects, okay? And that's the essence of this, okay? So this would cut across expertise. This webinar here will cut across pedagogy. This webinar here would cut across, would also speak to what international schools expect, okay? And that is why, I've done my best to, to bring in one of the best educators in Nigeria, and one of the best, education leaders in Nigeria. So she is the pastoral lead of Riverbank School. Riverbank is an international school in Lagos. And if you have an international school in Lagos, then I think we should all understand, what that implies, okay? So her name is Mrs. Okechi Ikechi. I've been stalking her online on LinkedIn for some years now. And when it was time to have this webinar, I told myself that it must be Mrs. Ogechi Kechi. And when I reached out to her, told her what I do, shared a few pieces of information, the things we've achieved and all of that. She said she'd like, she accepted the invitation. And for me, it's an honor to have Mrs. Ogechi Ikechi in the house. So please join me as I welcome Mrs. Ogechi Ikechi, all the way from Lagos, Riverbank School. The floor is yours, Miss.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lincoln. I am most thankful for this opportunity to be of service to my colleagues and fellow teachers in Nigeria. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Samuel Fawale, Miss Victoria David. I can see Oluda Milola.
Good evening, madam.
You're reading.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's such
Good
a
evening.
pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Mr. Lekan, for this opportunity. Every of such opportunity I get, I appreciate it. I do not hold back in expressing how thankful I am to be seen as worthy of giving my little bit, my contribution to the body of knowledge, okay, in some way. So first, can I start first with addressing the issue of being the best? Okay, so thank you. I feel flattered. I feel flattered. But what I think I do is what I think most of, if not all of us.
Okay, so
On your career.
okay.
That's why you're here. That's what I try to do too. I'm one such practitioner who does everything I can to ensure that I'm improving. I'm honing my craft. I'm honing my skills every time. Mr. Leko, you wanted to say something just now.
No, sorry. I was referring to at some point I lost you, so I wanted
Oh
to know
dear.
if you were still online.
Okay. See, it's the Nigerian thing, the Nigerian thing. I use MTN. MTN, please do not disappoint me this evening. All right. So first, I think I really do need to connect to everyone in the room this evening. Can I have an idea of your expectations? I think it would just be nice if you give me an idea what you expect from today's webinar, so that I can know how much of help I will be rendering this evening. Can anyone, or would you like to volunteer? Anyone at all? Please, can you give me an idea? What do you expect from the meeting this evening? Anyone? Please speak. Okay, so I will call names.
Yeah,
Miss
yes.
Victoria Olabi. Miss Victoria, please would you please just speak up for just a couple of seconds. Just tell us, why have you joined? Are you an educator? Do you teach in the classroom? And what do you hope to take away from today's webinar?
Yeah, just from the topic of the webinar.
Okay, Mr. Samuel.
Yeah, what international schools expect from prospective educators. So I'm an educator, but not in an international school yet. So I hope to migrate soon. So from the topic is what intrigues me or what's enticing me to join. So I want to know what exactly are the things that international schools are really looking out for. Thank you.
Very, very logical. What
Yeah.
geared you was the theme, right? So you're on the lookout for. But there was a key word you used, and I love it. You said you do not work in an international school yet. That's positivity, and I like it. All right, it's just yet, but it will come. As long as you set your mind to it, it will come. Amen. Just one more person, and then I will kickstart my part of today's program. Miss Victoria, are you willing? Or anybody else? I can see another Victoria. Oh, our list is increasing. I can see a Don G. I can see this will be a Miss Mojisala Uniron. I can see Oluda Milola. There is a Miss Victoria David. Anyone, please. Miss Victoria David, just let me know, what do you expect from today's webinar? Are you currently a teacher? Okay. Any willing voice? Going, going, gone. All right. Our participants are not willing yet, but let's just hope. I'm hoping that before I am done looking through some of these things I have on here, you will be willing. But this time around, I'm hoping you'll be willing to ask questions or make contributions wherever necessary. All right. So yes, employability. What international schools expect from prospective educators? Well, I won't lie. I'm almost tempted to say that I love to have it. I love to have participants responsive. I love to have them talk.
Yes.
Because
yes.
in the classroom, we are practitioners, right?
Yes.
And one of the first things as a 21st century educator, one of the first things that we are trained to do is to ensure that our classroom is not all talk, droning on and on and on. You are not the sage on stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how they put it. So it will be really nice to have our participants here, especially since we are all educated, we're all in the field, right? We're all in the classroom, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really nice to have us interact. Okay. So please do interact with me. All right. Thank you. Mr. Samuel Powale, thank you again. So if you're the only willing boys, please be encouraged to just keep this up. For a starter, I want you to imagine this, because this is realistic. All right. So you've just viewed the job advert of a top tier international school in Nigeria, like we usually do.
Mm-hmm.
And you've poured through the job description. Typically, can you name like top 10 things, top 10 qualities or skills or features stated, whether explicitly or implied, that the school will be on the lookout for, or the school desires to see in that prospective candidate, off the top of your head, please? Anyone? Mr. Samuel, you can take the lead. Mr. Lekon, please, you can join in. All right, urge our participants to be a bit more vocal.
Yes.
What are the top 10 things? Can you just off the top of your head? And there are no wrong answers, I must say. I think I have to mention that. I have to emphasize that. There are no wrong answers. So off the top of your head, what are the top 10 things that you remember seeing consistently in most of the adverts that you typically find, all right? Whether online or in the papers or wherever it is that they may be placing the adverts. Please shoot. And Mr. Samuel.
Yes, so Mr. Fees would like to speak. Yeah, please go on, Mr. Fees.
Please go ahead.
All right. I think the first thing is that you need to be a qualified teacher first. I think that should be the first thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Is that all?
Okay, then again, I just want to allow other people to talk. I think then again, you have to be willing to learn.
We still have a list
and
of
you
10.
have to show.
You have to be willing to
learn. You have to be flexible enough to be able to learn.
Okay, willing to learn. Yeah. Teachable, right? You have to be teachable, okay, or adaptable. All right. Yes.
Okay, so someone in the comment space, Ms. Dami is saying teamwork, communication skills, and she also said inclusion, diversity.
Inclusion and diversity.
Yeah.
Is that Ms. Damilola? Ms. Damilola, if you can expound on that, I would appreciate it, particularly the keyword, your keyword, diversity. Please expound on it, because you've just hit a nerve, right? You just hit a nerve. I want you to hit it properly, all right? So just expound on it in a sentence or two. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, yeah, it's a bit noisy here. So that was why I wasn't speaking at first. It's raining. So I just got the quiet corner, yes. So I say inclusion and diversity because I see that many international schools have students from different nationalities, and then they want to know that you are able to cater and you're patient and you have empathy and you can relate to someone from Lebanon, from Sierra Leone, from Ghana, from France, from America, all over. So they want to see that you have what it takes to work with these children, whether they have, even when they come with some issues, so to speak, maybe someone can't speak English and you're the English teacher. So you become a second language teacher, so to speak. So are you patient? Are you willing to include different, and then can you differentiate when you have learners with different abilities? Is it mid-range? Is it high? Is it low in the classroom? So that was why I put that there.
Thank you so much, Ms. Damilola. You speak like someone who already works in the sector. So give me more. Are you an international school teacher already, Mr.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
You are. What school do you work at?
I work at American Christian Academy.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining in. So you will be an additional voice. You are a resource person literally in the house. And I'm so thankful for it. Yes, we can see some hands. Mr. Samuel, please, yeah, you can chime in right now.
Yeah, thank you. Familiarity with the curriculum and then mastery of the subjects, then ability to adapt with new changes and all.
Adaptability, yes. Yes. You have to be familiar with the curriculum and you've got to have mastery of your subject. Absolutely. Very key factors. Miss Mojisola, please go ahead. Miss Mojisola.
Yeah, your voice is low, Miss Mojisola. Could you speak up?
Cat and dog here, I had a cow. So can you hear me?
Okay.
A bit.
I can hear you say, or I can hear you ask, can you hear me? So yeah, use that same volume to finish up.
We are talking about the qualities of a teacher and educator.
The qualities of a teacher.
One basic thing I would like to say this is that a teacher must be inspiring. You should be there talking about your learners, your opportunity to express themselves. Actually, I work in the public school and I see a lot. And one thing I've learned is that for the different ways them and then to bring out the best in them. Number one, I need to be patient and then learn, be patient and then hear them out. I won't just say they are wrong, I won't just say probably they are right. But one way or the other, I will encourage them to produce, to be themselves and then to be able to express themselves adequately.
You let them express themselves. You hear them out. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Like continue. And then one other thing is that you can be knowledgeable. Like I said earlier, I do okay. It's not for the fact that you are actually you are focused. One way or the other, you will not be challenged. But then, like we are the point that we are trying to hammer here is that okay, there has to be recognized internationally. I think that one needs to be able to, equip oneself for the knowledge one needs in order to impact the learners. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ms. Mojisola. Your wrap-up having to do with equipping oneself is very key. And I believe that's what is the bond. That's the common factor with everyone who's in here today. We're here to equip ourselves further. I'm so thankful that we have educators in the house. We have resource persons in the house. We have people that, even though they're looking out for opportunities, all right, to jump in, to dive right into teaching in international schools. You're already equipping yourself with the knowledge and skills that it takes, all right, to fit into such settings and to deliver excellently. Thank you all very much. So I start off first with a little bit of research I stumbled into as I prepared for this webinar. I'll start with the bad news and then the good news. Okay, so the first says 91% of British international school leaders. And this is from COBIS, all right? So this is across all of the countries. So when we say COBIS, that's the Commonwealth of British International Schools. So this is regardless of the the geographical location, all over. So 91% of the leaders, school leaders, said that they find recruiting quality teachers somewhat or very challenging. Yeah, slightly higher than the response from early 2020. Quality teachers, that's the key word. That's kind of like the bad news. And I'm sure you will understand why I'm tagging that bad news. They're looking for quality teachers all year round. International schools the world over are on the lookout for quality teachers. And the comment from the school leaders all over the world is that it's slightly more challenging. It's very challenging or somewhat challenging to have to recruit quality teachers. Now, the second news, which I tag good, is the state of affairs right now as we speak. All right, this is relevant even in Nigeria. There's an increase in the recruitment of local staff. All right, which is about 40%, 46% increase. Listed as the top ways in which recruitment practice has changed compared with 2 years ago. So many things are responsible for this. Currently, we had quite a good number of our Indian staff leave, and they had to be replaced by local staff members. There's so much happening in the political space, policy making that's affecting the hiring and retainment of what we call expatriate teachers. I call that good news because now you can find a space, you can find something for yourself in that international school you've had your eyes on for a long time now. And what's the way to go? You've got to ensure that you are that quality teacher that the head teachers are on the lookout for. You've got to skill up, you've got to equip yourself. All right. But that's the thing. That's the keyword. That's the starting point. I'll go into a little bit of detail so that we can all understand how you can do so, the ways in which you can do so. So 3 things that we will cover. We will reflect together as one house on the skills and qualities that international schools require for their teacher recruitment. We'll look at the actionable steps that you can take as a potential international educator to be the ideal candidate. And we will try to talk about the tools that are required for teachers through the recruitment process, because that's another thing entirely, the process of recruitment. I remember telling a colleague of mine that the current school the school I currently work at is one such school that the recruitment procedure I had to go through, oh my goodness, and the amount of time it took to get recruited, I have never been stressed as much as I was. You know, I felt it was a bit of a blow on my ego when I went, what's all this? But I had to go through the process. All right.
I'll come down. Oh.
Okay, so all right. Can we please use our microphones? I can see our wonderful nuggets are trying to chime in. Okay, so yes. Now we will look at 3 sample schools adverts for staff members that they intend to recruit. Just three out of so many. I think I have very carefully hidden their names so we can hardly guess what schools these are, so that we can even see what the common factor is that runs through them. And then that will take our conversation to another level. So this one says, this school is looking for the following people. You can see them: assistant teachers, English teacher, drama teacher, swimming coach. And now some of these things will tick some of the answers that some of us gave earlier on. So if you see whatever answer you gave, just clap for yourself wherever you are, all right? So this says a good first degree, education preferably in a relevant field. Of course, this is regardless of whether you studied education primarily or not. Please, Mr. Lekon, someone is able to write on my presentation.
Yes. I'm going to fix that now. I'll fix that now.
All right, thank you.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, so, I'll fix that now.
Thank you. Okay, so I said this is regardless. This is not to give us a scare. Even if your first degree is not in education. What do you call that now? The PGDE or PDE, whatever it is called, in whatever institution you may have gotten that from. In my institution, it was called the professional degree in education. For most, it's the postgraduate degree in education. That should be sufficient to give you some sort of certification in education.
Yeah.
The minimum of 3 years experience teaching in an international school. Class and subject teachers only. That's the emphasis. Then the TRCN membership. I remember one of us mentioned that because you've got to be a certified teacher. So TRCN, you know what that means? The Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria. If there is anyone here that is yet to be a member of the TRCN, you're not doing the right thing. Make sure you get yourself certified. And then the relevant certification. A can-do attitude, functional IT skills with proficiency in Microsoft Office tools and relevant software. Of course, you've got to be techie. You have to be 21st century compliant. If we are teaching digital literacy or digital citizenship to our students, our learners, we've got to be one ourselves, right? Excellent communication skills. One of us did emphasize that. Effective planning and organizing, and the ability to pay attention to detail, extremely necessary. The ability to prioritize and manage time effectively. Yes, absolutely necessary. Why? Because international schools are very fast-paced. They're highly fast-paced, all right? So you've got to be able to manage your time well and prioritize your work. And of course, the suitability to work with children. There's a lot of emphasis on safeguarding and child protection. However, typically, it's usually when you come in, the school spends their resources ensuring that you're properly trained on those topical issues having to do with child protection and safeguarding. I'm not going into too much of those details in this webinar because it wouldn't be so relevant. So this is what this school's advert says. This is another school. This is a top tier school, I must emphasize, a top tier school. But you can tell from this advert that this advertisement is not for an educator in the classroom. I'm sure you can tell from the look of things, athletic background, all right? But however, you've got to have your bachelor's degree, you've got to have a background or interest in the education sector, you've got to have the necessary skills and the necessary skills and attributes include good organization skills, multitasking. Yes, you've got to be able to multitask. There'll be so much to do at the same time. You've got to have patience. You've got to have great communication skills, great interpersonal skills, because you've got to have to relate with children, parents, colleagues, and the community. Honesty and integrity. You've got to be able to present yourself well, all right, to the students, and then to the external community. You've got to be flexible with your working hours according to the needs of the school. And you've got to be able to establish and maintain satisfactory working relationships with everyone. All right, I'm moving to the third. This one is very detailed, very detailed. This one includes almost everything we've seen before now and much more. But believe me, this one speaks for almost every school whose adverts I've had to take a look through or counseled anyone who is on the lookout for such opportunity. Now, duties and responsibilities different from your competency and skills aware. So you've got to be able to facilitate, encourage learning experience, which provides students with the opportunity to achieve their individual potential. You've got to monitor and support the overall progress and development of students in the subject area. Somebody mentioned something having to do with having mastery of the subject area. Of course, that has to be the case before you are able to support their progress as you ought to. You've got to establish a purposeful learning atmosphere during learning activities. You've got to deliver excellent teaching and integrate the use of technology in lesson delivery. You've got to deliver engaging and stimulating lessons, taking into account individual needs of students. Now, competency and skills. You've got to have a strong background in literacy. I'm sure you can tell who exactly they're looking at, what subject area they're on the lookout for teaching. Must be enthusiastic and passionate. You've got to have a proven track record of being able to teach knowledge and skills. You've got to be able to incorporate activities to teach all contents, highly effective written and oral communication skills. That is a common factor. Reliable, thorough, deep commitment to accuracy. This is very detailed. self-motivated and able to work independently, exceptional time management skills, excellent knowledge of child protection requirements, capability in delivering dynamic lessons, highly committed to achieving the highest possible standards for all students, sound interpersonal skills, including the ability to work as part of a team. Somebody mentioned teamwork amongst us. Nice. Energetic, reliable, and self-motivated. A strong commitment to the health and well-being of students. Ability to develop and maintain positive relationships with young people. Ability to earn the respect and deep trust of young people. Demonstrated ability to maintain confidentiality. An ability to cope with multiple demands with limited immediate direction. Must be positive-minded. A strong commitment in gaining further qualifications. Must possess a minimum of 4 years classroom experience in an international school. Must be a graduate and must possess a teaching qualification. And then they say, do you possess the qualifications and person specifications listed above? Then you are qualified to join our team. So now, in a nutshell, typically, international schools seek world-class practitioners with years of experience in similar settings. Now, this may come as a little jarring for some of us, especially when we say, but I don't work in an international school right now. I mean, like, if I'm not given the chance, how do I ever get to work in such a setting? If I'm expected, right, to have worked in an international school previously before coming over. So the question is it entirely impossible to be given the chance if you've never worked in an international school? The good news is you can't get a chance. I say this because I'm convinced of it. I say this because I started from somewhere. Somebody gave me a chance, all right? Someone did give me a chance. Even though, to put it in proper perspective, it was not in the kind of tier that I currently work at, because there are tiers in the international school setting, right? They exist in tiers. There's the top tier, and some people will say there's the middle tier, and then there's the other tier, right? So they are tiered. But the common factor in all of these schools is that they teach the international curriculum, all right? They teach, it could be the British, it could be the Canadian, it could be the American, all right? They teach something other than the Nigerian curriculum. Some schools mix, some schools do entirely the international curriculum. The school where I currently am teach purely the British international curriculum, Cambridge particularly, right? Because there are different exam boards that you get to prep students for. Okay. So yes, so that takes us to this quotation I saw somewhere. You've got to be world class. And this does not necessarily mean going internationally, all right? And showing your best out there. But being world class is showing passion, is showing commitment to this profession we're in. And being world class is giving your best to teaching where you are. Where you are. Being aware of the global perspectives, all right? But utilizing it in your classroom where you are. That's one way mentally you will begin to enter into this space you hope to go to before you get in there physically. You've got to enter mentally first. Yeah. I can't teach you, I can't say what I had to practice this myself. I had to enter mentally first before I entered physically. And that is having a determination to begin to infuse that global perspective to my practitioner in the classroom. All right, in the classroom where I was, in that Nigerian curriculum school, okay? Learning how to better manage student behavior, how to infuse the different teaching methodologies in my classroom, how to, for those of us who belong to schools where you get to use corporal punishment, and you hear people say, in the kind of classroom you hope to go to, you can't, it doesn't exist. Yeah. You can't touch your learner. You can't touch. Yeah. You can't. I can't stress this enough. You cannot touch your learner. All right. So for some of us, it sounds very strange. And you ask yourself, is it possible to drive learning without corporal punishment. It is.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to start doing so in that place where you are. And that's one way you begin to enter into what you're looking for just before you get there physically. All right. So being world class starts first in your classroom, right there where you are. All right. So yes, I have no experience in teaching in an international school. So what do I do first? Some of these things, some of us have mentioned already at the start of the webinar. You've got to have mastery of your subject. Oh, absolutely. You've got to be one of the best math, English, chemistry teachers out there. You've got to be one of the best. And what's the proof? What's the thing? What's the decider? Or what's the litmus test that you're one of the best? It's your results. Your result speaks. It's your result that speaks. All right? It's your result. You've got to have mastery of your subject. Okay? You've got to improve on yourself. And that's reaching out. See what the best do out there. What do they do that you're yet to practice, that you're yet to know? All right? Get a hold of it and begin to practice it. All right? So that's one. Mentorship. I once had a should I say, a colleague in the profession who hoped to enter into our field, who hoped to enter into it soon, reach out to me. I'm thankful for such things as LinkedIn. LinkedIn now makes it possible for you to have some sort of access to virtually anybody in any part of the world. All right? It's about you first, taking notes, studying, whoever it is you wish to begin to shadow. I call it shadowing. All right? Take note of the person, study the person's track record, check the person's profile. All right? And then reach out. Don't hold back. Don't be shy, and do not be afraid. All right, reach out to the person. And LinkedIn gives the perfect opportunity for you to reach out. The next thing is to volunteer. Now, I say this because this worked. It's a trick. Should I call it a trick now? It was something that worked for somebody I know who is currently in the school where I am. And I will reveal further. It worked for her in a top tier. She literally zoomed from nowhere to a top tier international school, particularly British International School, Lagos. What did she do? She volunteered. She identified where she wanted to work. And she said she wasn't settling for anything less. She wasn't settling for anything other than BIS Lagos. And she showed up there. She's a teacher of biology. She's a teacher of biology. She showed up at the school very boldly one day, and she said, this is what I have. This is what I want to do. And I am willing to offer my services for free to your school. Yes, of course, as you would expect. It's not like she was given straight access to the classroom because she showed up at their doorstep. No, all right? But it attracted attention to her, some sort of attention. All right, because they were surprised. They were really surprised because it cost her some to have to navigate to the school every morning. But she showed up, and she showed up the next day, and she showed up the next day, and she kept showing up. Well, the part of the story that is not quite it's not as if it was very easy for her. She said she had to keep showing up for over a year, surprisingly. She had to be dogged. And that's because she knew what she wanted. She knew that getting a place at such a school was pretty stiff, very stiff, very competitive, all right? But she felt she had to do what she had to do, all right? And she kept showing up until they had no other choice than to take her in. They got her and they employed her. They eventually did. And she followed through. And the funny thing is, she wasn't even a registered teacher at the time, but it was her doggedness that compelled them to just recruit her at the moment when they were looking for an additional science teacher. So that's the thing with volunteering. Another thing is creating a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You've got to create a niche for yourself and being visible. You' and you've got to be visible. Remember, one of the things that LinkedIn, I mentioned earlier, tries to do for you is to connect, right? Yeah. To connect to someone, probably someone who is already in that school. It could be, I want to emphasize HRs. Oh my goodness. Please, the page, the LinkedIn page of any school, well, my school to start with, I don't know about the others, but I'm certain that the others who have LinkedIn pages, they are run typically by the HR. So please follow that page, follow the LinkedIn page of the school you desire to work at, and be on the lookout for their adverts, all right? Be on the lookout for the HR, okay, in whatever school you hope to work at. If you connect to a teacher in that school, you can, in the course of connecting, in the course of interacting, you could ask for the HR's details, and then you send your details, send your CV, send your cover letter, well, CV to start with. Except there's an opening already, then you can start talking about the cover letter. Okay, so what the point is, my point really, the original point is the fact that you should create a niche for yourself and be visible. Because when you begin to do the connecting, a lot of the time, these people want to get to see who you are. Mm-hmm. All right. So if it's a little much more than just your profile, if it's a little more like some activity you do, all right, some niche you've created in your field, then you will be more visible. You will be more likable, all right? You'll be more magnetic to them. The next point is, please, you've got to get intimate with the foreign. If you want to teach the British curriculum, go and study about, and the great thing is, which if you compare it with the Nigerian or the WAEC, these things are available online. Just get on the CAIE, it's called the Cambridge Assessment International Education website. You will have access to the syllabus, you will have access to the past question papers, you will have access to the specimen papers. Begin to study what you want to become, what you want to get to begin to teach. Look at the assessment objectives. Look through their past papers, all right? Yes. In the course of getting mentored, I think some of these things can actually, because in the past, I've had to, for some of my mentees, I've had to share access to a lot of these, which some of these you may not get for free on the CAIE website or edXL or wherever. So connecting with someone who already teaches that curriculum can give you access, some form of access to some of the things that some of those websites would not give you access to. If you have a little bit of dough, get certified. Just go for some sort of training, all right? If it's focused on assessment, if it's the introductory training for Cambridge teaching, even if it's carefree, if it's Checkpoint is like our junior WAEC, all right? Exactly, that's what the year 9s or the GSS3 students write, okay? So go and get some sort of training, right? Because if there is a lack of experience in actually teaching the curriculum, your training, your certification can open a door, can just open a door for you. Next, I have to speed this up. Study, study, study. You've got to study, all right? Study. Apply to coach students who need tutoring to ace their exams. I'm sure a lot of us do our side gig, right? Typically, the typical side gig of the typical teacher would have to be teaching on the side, teaching privately, PP, they call it private practice, right? Do not shy away from the opportunity to coach a child who is prepping for CAIE exams. But I must emphasize, only after you have studied that curriculum well, and you've gotten some sort of mentorship, all right? You've gotten some sort of mentorship from someone who's been teaching it for some time. Do not run away from the opportunity to teach them. More so when the opportunity that opens up for you is online. Oh my goodness, please don't run away from it. The good news as well is that more opportunities are opening up for us, not just locally, but internationally, all right? Right now, I'm trying to keep up with the number of students who need my services to prep their children for for GCSEs. Please take note of what I'm saying. GCSEs in the UK. I'm having to figure out, how am I going to have to do this? How do I manage my weekends well? Because since I teach full time, it has to be my weekend. So I've got to prioritize, I've got to do this and that. Now, the thing is, the challenging thing is we are all, in this regard, they're all on the same level because most of those students are not being prepped. They're not being prepped for IGCSEs. They're not being prepped for Cambridge exams. It's EdExcel, GCSEs. It's WJEC. It is AQA.
OCR.
Examinations from exam boards whose exams I have, for some of whom I've never set my eyes on before. So you see, these tips I'm giving you, I'm having to do the same myself. I'm having to take my own medicine. All right. I had to prep a bit of a testimonial. I had to prep a student, a young child, for his GCSEs last year. His father, I'm trying to remember how they got the connect. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. You know, a lot of the time it's parent to parent, word of mouth reference. All right. But they reached out to me to say that their son had been having a 5, you know, the 9 to 1 grading. This boy had consistently been having a 5 for English language and a 4 for literature. Okay. And they need someone to prep him. We had about, we started sometime in November. That's 2 years ago. It was last year he had to write his GCSEs and they needed help. I asked, what's your exam board? So that I can at least know what it is I'm going to have to help you out with. And they said it was AQA. AQA GCSEs. I've never had to teach that child before. Now look at this. This is a door opening up for me, which I had little to no knowledge about. But hey, I did not run away from this. I didn't run away from the opportunity because I realized I've been teaching the English language for a number of years. I know that regardless of the exam board, there is a thread. There's a common thread that runs through any of those exams, and that is the skills. The skills are just about the same. So what did I do? I took my second to the last tip on this slide. I studied, and then I studied a bit more, and then I studied a bit more. I studied all day. I went to the AQA website. Thankfully, again, these things are free. They are available on these sites. I got to the AQA website. I looked through their syllabus. I looked through their past papers. I saw the common thread between what that exam board or what the exams, both English language and literature, the skills that they expect the students to exhibit, the assessment objectives. And I had to begin to teach it to the students. And of course, every other fantastic methodology or every other tip, all of those things we do, the use of exemplars, modeling for your students, writing especially. I did all of those. And the good news was, this chap, the father was so proud, he shared the results as given by the school with me when it came out. He had a 9 in English language. A 9 is an A star. And he had an 8 in literature, all right, which is an A. He was a feather to my hat. I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of my students, and it boosted my confidence further to keep acing it. So this year, the challenge in front of me this year, and that's good news, is that I'm having to prep a student for WJEC. Okay, that's EduCAS. I have never had to do so before, but I'm bracing up for the challenge. I'm doing my studying, and we've started out already. Thankfully, the child is not in year 11 just yet. The child is in year 10. So we're on this journey together. So like I said, doors will open up for you. As you step in mentally, all right, doors will open up for you. And my point is, do not underestimate the doors that open up, not in the physical international school classroom, but in the online space. Please. Some of you, I'm going to have to recommend, those of you who are skilling up, who are doing great already. I'm going to have to recommend, a certain school reached out to me from the UK. It's a school now, it's not a parent. who's looking for a teacher is the school. Because this young man who is starting out something really enterprising in Nigeria got a deal with a school in the UK to recruit teachers from Nigeria to teach a variety of subjects. They will they recruit us, and you'll get the chance. You get slots, just like you're working in a school. But it's just that it's the weekend, right? You teach for a couple of hours and you will earn. You will earn in pounds or whatever it is that's available for on offer. All right, you'll get to teach. So the thing is, that's the idea. That's the idea. You've got to step in there mentally. Just give me a moment. I want my people in the house to just send the fan in my direction. So I'll just permit me to Joshua, please turn the fan in my direction. Thank you. All right. So my toolkit. I've labeled this a toolkit 1 because oh my, hold on. Let me go back to that. Okay, I've labeled this my toolkit 1 because when you actually do get called up, when you get called up, all right, when you get called up in the recruitment process, you need gas. Okay, Joshua, go and turn up the gas outside. No, it's not. It's in front here. No, it's in front here. Joshua, go and turn up the gas button. Okay, so sorry, pardon me, please. Let me share this again. All right, so I've labeled this toolkit 1 because, can you still see my screen? Mr. Lekon, please do confirm.
Yes, we can. Yes.
You can still see it?
Yes.
Okay. But is it in slideshow mode?
Not yet. You have to click on the slideshow and then
fantastic. I will.
Click on the current. Oh, okay. Oh.
Okay, so as I was saying, I've labeled this toolkit 1 because when you do get into the pool, when you've been called up, you need another toolkit, and that will have to be the toolkit that has to do with the interviewing process. So this is your preliminary toolkit. Your CV. Oh, let me go back. I think this should take me back up. Fantastic. Your CV. What does your CV look like? Your CV has got to be, it's got to be great. And one of the things that the typical HR will not tell you is that try to have your picture on it. Yeah, have a very flattering picture of yourself on your CV. Okay? Have a flattering picture, a professionally taken picture of yourself on your CV. Right? In the course of doing a couple of things, I was surprised to know that LinkedIn can generate a CV for you. I shared mine, okay? But LinkedIn will not put your picture on it, so you may just have to manually do so by yourself, all right? Yeah, this is just a snippet of what LinkedIn will do for you, okay? If you wish to know how, just ask. I'm sure Mr. Lekon knows it, or you can reach out to me, however. You can connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So let me go back. All right, so your cover letter, when it's time for that, when you're having to direct your application to an opening, all right, before you write that cover letter, please read up on the school. Absolutely, read up on the school. Know their values. You will find a way to connect it to some of the ideas that you're sharing. All right, it tells the HR that you're a thoughtful educator, you're a thoughtful person. Leverage on technology. We realize that AI can do wonders for us, right?
Yeah.
AI can do wonders for us. So even though AI will help generate a fantastic CV or cover letter for you, you have to humanize it. Yeah. Please humanize that thing that AI has done for you. And one of the things you can do to humanize your cover letter, just like I said, is after having read the values of that school, infuse it into that thing. Just edit that thing that AI does for you further, all right? By infusing that thing you've learned about the school that you are hoping to work at. Work on your communication skills, please. that person who talked about the need for very strong communication skills, both speaking and writing. You just hit it. You hit the nail perfectly well. So you do have to work on your communication skills. You've got to read about the school. I said that earlier. And you've got to infuse it into your cover letter when it's time for the interview process. And I want to emphasize early on in the interview process, make sure
All right, I think we lost her. I think she disconnected. Okay, but yes, she's back. Okay, she's
I'm
back.
back in.
Yes,
I apologize. It's empty here. It's empty.
Yeah, it's
here.
fine. It's fine.
Right. I'm also telling my kids to not use my connection to play games, because that's what they were doing just now. So please disconnect yourself from my internet. Thank you. All right. Okay, so I'm going to have, can you still see my screen or have to share afresh? It looks like
Yes, you have to share first. To share again.
All right then. Please confirm that you can see it now.
Yes, we can. Yes.
All right. Okay then. I was talking about reading up on the school, right? I was talking, okay, so I emphasize early on in the interview process, you've got to share the fact that your values intersect with the values of the school. This was like the thing that made me get my foot in the door in my own situation. You remember early on in the webinar, I talked about the procedure I had to go through, very lengthy procedure, almost over a month, all right, in that recruitment procedure. One of the things that helped me get my foot in the door was early on, I had to emphasize the fact that my values as a teacher, as a practitioner, it intersects with the school's values. Because I discovered through reading that the schools, one of the things they emphasize on is leadership. So I had to emphasize on the fact that regardless of what role I'm playing in a school system, I've had the opportunity to lead a school before. All right. But regardless of whether I'm in the boardroom or in the classroom, it's leadership that's the thing for me. What I have in mind is I'm raising leaders. And the moment I said that, I knew that I had struck a chord with the HR, with that HR person. I knew that I'd struck a chord, and he nodded his head, and I knew that that was it for me. I was called for the next step in all of the procedures I had to go through. So yes, you've got to read, and you've got to read again. So be on the lookout for recruitment seasons. Now, for a lot of these schools, the turnover rate has a tendency to be high. Yes, as a matter of fact, okay? Yes. The turnover rate, both student turnover rate and staff turnover rate. But the reasons I may not be privileged to go into in this, you understand?
Yeah.
In this session. So be on the lookout. A lot of them recruit through the season. So sometimes January, the usual September, January. Sometimes I got recruited in December. I remember 3 years ago, December 6th, I started my appointment in that school. So yes, and I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity and I grew through the ranks again because I showed commitment. In 3 years, I became the head of pastoral care because I showed commitment to my practice. Okay, so and in such places, there's a lot of room for career growth. A lot of room for career growth. All right. Yes, you've got to be in the loop. And one such loop is this kind that Mr. Lekon Atikon creates. Fantastic one. Be in the loop. Whether it's the HR pool, I've just emphasized the HR pool because there are some HR people that are third-party HR people. I don't know if you've ever noticed the HR, I think institution called, what's her name now? What's that name now? Something advisory. Plumter Advisory.
Yes.
Plumter Advisory.
Plumter. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes. Make sure you belong to their pool. Reach out to them. From time to time, they send out adverts. All right.
Plumter.
Make sure you are in their pool, because if you are, opportunities will walk to you when they arrive. They will reach out to you via WhatsApp. They'll tell you, this is an opening available. This is how much they're offering. Are you up for it? All right. Make sure you are in their pool. LinkedIn, yes, be in the loop on LinkedIn. Follow the people. How do Nigerians say it? Follow those who know. Follow the person who knows rules, right? Aha.
Yeah.
So make sure you're in the loop. WhatsApp groups, absolutely. WhatsApp groups that have to do with teaching, all right, generally. Make sure you're in the loop. Finally, I think if I would be lying if I do not mention that there's a fourth dimension to everything in life, all right? The fourth dimension is that part that you cannot control. Pray about it, all right? Pray about it. Pray about your work. Pray about your journey. Commit whatever it is you're doing to God. Ask him to show you, to open your eyes, give you seeing eyes, hearing ears, the people who matter. Let him attract them to you, all right? And of course, you've got to be visible. I can't stress that enough, all right? So that when God does bring those people, when he magnetizes you to them, you will be visible, they will see you alongside. So you've got to do your part. I can't stress it enough that you've got to do your part so that God will be able to do his part. All right? So that's about it. That's a sneak peek of my own resume. Generally, on the whole, you've got to be a global teacher. A global teacher is a competent individual, a competent practitioner who is armed with enough skills, appropriate attitude, and universal values to teach students with both time-tested as well as modern technologies in education in any place in the world. You are someone who thinks and acts both locally and globally with worldwide perspectives, right in the community, in the classroom where you are situated. It is Nigeria today. Tomorrow, it just may be the UK. It may just be the UK in Nigeria, because some of us, as I emphasized, are already teaching in the UK, even though they're physically in Nigeria. Believe me if I say that that door is opening for a lot of us. That door is opening for a lot of us, and it will open for you too. All right. Just make sure that you're stepping in mentally, because you will step in physically. Thank you very much. And I am open and willing to take your questions now.
Do we have questions? If you are too shy to speak, please feel free to text your questions. I'll read them out. And then, so one of the things I did was I have sent the name. It's Plumtree Advisory. They are on LinkedIn. You can follow them on LinkedIn, and then also follow them on other social media platforms. Do we have questions?
I have a question, please. Good evening.
Yes, please introduce yourself, tell us your name, and then ask a question.
I am Akinfenwa Ayowumi from the Quest Schools here in Ibadan. So when she was talking earlier, she spoke about having a first degree in education. For someone like me, I do not have my first degree in education. My first degree is in bachelor's in technology. But thereafter, I went for a PGDE in education, and I obtained my TRCN certificate. So I want to ask if I can still be a potential candidate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ayowumi. When I did mention that, I quickly chimed in to add that even if your bachelor's degree is not in education, your PGDE or your PDE, regardless of what it's called, for some people it's your PGCE, it suffices, it's enough. And that's the reason you were given a TRCN certificate, because it's enough, all right? You're seen as an education, as someone having the knowledge, the basics, the skills, the knowledge and skills as an education practitioner. Thank you.
Thank you, ma. I did not get that then. Probably my network. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, any other question? This is an opportunity to ask questions, okay, because I think we're drawing close to the end of this session. So questions. Feel free to send in your questions in the chat box if you don't want to speak. Do we have questions?
Yeah, if now, just to give some sort of perspective, if you've ever had to apply to an opening and they probably started the procedure, so the process started, and somewhere in between, you seem to have been ghosted, all right, and you don't quite know, you can ask why why did the HR ghost you? I'll probably follow up with questions from your side to know what you may have done, right? And then follow up with feedback. Whatever it is, okay, that you wish to ask about, please feel free to ask. Feel free to ask. And while we're waiting for that,
yes, I have a question.
Yes, I think.
Oh, you do, Mr. Samuel. Yeah. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. I want to ask: is it advisable? Maybe you have applied to a school and maybe you didn't hear from them, or maybe you couldn't put through. Can you reapply and like when again can you reapply? You just discover that you were not able to put through. Can you keep on reapplying? Keep on sending the CV? Is it advisable?
Thank you, Mr. Samuel. Yeah. Can you keep sending your CV? Yes, I think you should. I think you should keep sending your CV. Right. However, but first, there's something I want to tell you. It happened to me. Again, it's in this current school. Remember, I said it took over a month for me to get recruited by the HR. It was when I stepped in, I got in, I was told that that's the culture. They take their time. All right, they take their time to find the right fit for whatever role. All right, it's open. In the course of, because I was totally not used to it. I've worked at BIS in the past. All right, I've worked at BIS before. BIS hiring was just like this. Okay, it was really fast. It was so when I applied and I got the first feedback, I was excited. Okay, yes. I was told when the first interview, which was virtual, and we had the interview, and that was it. The first day passed, the second day, the third day, it became a week, it became 2 weeks. I said, me, about to be ghosted, no way, this cannot happen. So there is a place for doggedness, there's a place for stubbornness, right? I said to myself, this is not going to happen. So here's what I did. I sent a mail to HR. HR, I have not received feedback from you, and I want to know why. Why have you not? Now, some schools right from the very start, or some places of some companies will even tell you this is like the British Council. They'll say, if at any point you're no longer being considered or something like that, you may not be given feedback because our pool, we have a lot of people in the pool, and we may not be able to give feedback to each person. Yeah, that's okay. But there was no such thing in this situation. So there's no reason why I shouldn't ask for a reason why it's looking like you're trying to. So I sent that mail. Do you know that after sending the mail, the feedback I received from HR was the next what do you call that? The next interview process, the date for the next interview process. There was about 4 altogether. There was about 4. Just imagine. There was about 4. But it took my mail saying that I have been waiting for feedback and I have not received any.
Yeah.
So here's what. Send that mail. Ask for feedback.
Yeah.
Ask them to look at you in the face and tell you if you did not qualify and why your application fell short.
Sure. Yeah.
So that in the future, you'll know what to do better, right?
Yeah.
You know how to prepare yourself for this better next time. So please ask questions and keep applying.
Yeah.
Keep applying. But then, if you do not ask questions to know what you did not do quite well, you may not be able to know what to do better next time. And you may keep making the same mistake and not get considered. Do you understand? That's why you've got to ask questions. Yeah. And that's why you also need some sort of mentorship. Yes, Mr. Samuel. Go ahead.
But you're sure they needed your service? What of it is if it's random? Kind of.
If it's a random CV, just sending my CV randomly.
Okay.
Yes, I knew they needed it. I knew that there was an opening, and then I applied to it. I saw the opening on LinkedIn, and I applied to it. All right. You're asking what if it's a random one? If it's a random one, and I've sent a couple of random CVs like that. In fact, on the school's website, a lot of the time when you send it, they'll assure you. They will even tell you there on the school's website that your CV is now in our we will just reach out to you when we see. And you know what? I did one such thing for CIS. Lekki.
Yeah, Children International School.
Would you believe Children's International School? Would you believe that? I think it was about 2 years after. The HR in CIS called me. I was already in my current school. They called me and said, do you want a job? This is the opening that's CIS. This is the opening that's available. And this is the job description. We're looking for someone. We saw your CV in our book. So it works. Just send, once you see that opening in the website and it tells you, send your CV, we will keep it and we'll reach out to you when we need such and such a person. Please do so. Send it. It will be in their book because it happened to me sometime in the past. Thank you, Mr. Samuel.
Yeah,
but when you send it once, you may not need to do so again.
Yeah, Mrs. Okechi, thank you for the response. I want to add to that, okay, so that everybody in the house can benefit. Before I ask on behalf of Mrs. Folashade. Okay, so 2 things I've noticed. Okay, and why are we having these webinars? We keep having these webinars in order to help educators understand, what it takes in this sector, and also to boost our confidence. Okay, because, for example, it's easy for you to develop your esteem as an educator as you transit from one international school to another. Okay, so by experience, one of the things I've noticed is when you're moving from one international school to another, you become more confident. You can do what Mrs. Ogechi said. I've done that a couple of times. Like I've had to write mails to, to some of these revered international bodies, things I probably wouldn't do some 5 years back. Okay, but because, I've been transiting from one international school to another. So, I know what it takes. I'm also beginning to see that these people are, flesh and blood like myself and all of that. Okay, so, but if we don't have the opportunity yet, that's why we're having this, so that even before you begin to transit, before you begin to move from one international school to another, you know that it is actually professional for you to write an organization. If you send your CV, if you are called for the first stage of the interview and they don't write you back, okay, it even speaks, to the organization. It tells them that there's something about this individual. This individual is professional enough to know that they should be written back, they should be fed back on the outcome of the interview process. Okay. So I think it's a culture we have to imbibe. It's quite unfortunate that in this part of the world, okay, people have been repressed. Okay, so things we should do normally, we don't do it. You can't go to your boss to ask questions, to know. You can't go to demand for salary increase because your boss will be upset and all of that. These are things that we should be free to do. These are things I've done that a couple of times and it worked. So these are things, and that's why we're having this. Okay, so that when we learn from people that have gone ahead, we know that it's not strange, okay, to do this. So one thing I've discovered is, please, we don't even have to wait for there to be a vacancy advertisement. You know the schools you would like to join. Like Mrs. Ogechi said, I had that experience also some years back. I wanted to leave the international school I was working at, and then I just started sending my CV at random. I picked some schools in Lagos. I picked a few other schools outside of Lagos, and then I sent my CVs. And I got the auto reply. So one of the things we also have to know is that serious international schools could put you on auto reply. Once your CV drops, they would send an auto reply message to you that, oh, acknowledging receipt of your CV, so you know they've gotten it. And that if you're needed, they will write you back. Okay. So it's something we must learn to do. Nothing stops anybody here from sending your CV to James Hope. Nothing stops you from sending your CV to Charterhouse. Charterhouse is starting their secondary school soon. Nothing stops you from sending your CV there. Okay, so it's a culture that we must imbibe. Okay, we are free to send in our CVs. Send in your CVs. You will get auto replies. If you don't get auto replies, maybe after some 3 months again, send another one. Also, because I've noticed that for some of these international schools, some don't advertise openings, especially when a teacher leaves in the middle of the session. Sometimes it's just those within the department that probably just reaches out to individuals. Okay, so one of the reasons why we must inculcate the habit of ensuring that our CVs are widespread is the HR sees it. The HR would only see the CV you send. Okay, so in a case where the school hasn't publicly announced a vacancy, but those within the department, because there are times also that those within the department do that. Okay, maybe the head of the department knows someone, and the head of the department then walks up to the head of school and say, oh, I think I would like to recommend a particular person. The management could decide not to put out the advert. But if the HR sees your CV and goes through it, the HR could say, oh, I came across a CV. I want us to, to write this person so that this person could also be invited to compete, for the position. So I think it's a culture we have to imbibe. Let's send our CVs, whether there's a vacancy or not. As long as it's a school you would like to work, at, and there's an email address for you to send your CV to, please do that gladly, and you can be sure. Like she said, I've also had a school that contacted me a year after I sent my CV, and by that time it was already late. I was somewhere else and I was comfortable where I was. But one of the things I did was to recommend someone. Okay. And because I recommended someone, the person got the job and the person is working there now, a position I could have taken. Okay. So we just have to, okay, imbibe that culture, send your CV. If you write them and there's no auto reply, after some 3 months, send again. Okay. Because like Mrs. Ogechi said, recruitment season, it's not only in August, September, August that schools recruit. Some teachers will be traveling out of Nigeria during this period. Some teachers will be resuming in some other country in January. So it means that we also have to set our eyes on this period. Okay, so I think this is also the best time for you to start sending your CVs. And many of the schools, because they have a strong HR department, they keep the CVs. Okay, so they don't trash them. They keep the CVs. And when there's an opening, you can be sure that they would write you. Thank you. Let me read Mrs. Fola Shade's question. So A question is, Mr. Hafiz, we'll call you after this. How do I improve learning outcomes in students who have low readings to learn? Low readings to learn. Maybe she has to clarify that. But Ms. Okechi, do you understand that? How do I improve learning outcomes in students who have low readings to learn?
Low readings.
Yeah.
Let me see. Where's the chat?
Chat, yes.
Let me open
yes, the chat box. Okay, so she said readiness.
Readiness.
Readiness. Yeah.
Okay, so what I want to say first is, thankfully, it's a case of their motivation, not that they have ADHD or something. Because it's a lot more of a problem when it's, should I call that a problem? No, a bit more of a challenge when it's ADHD
challenge.
and some of those of the special needs issues that we're looking at. So if it's about motivation, it's to find out what you should do differently to motivate your students to learn. That's it. You have got to do something about it. If your students are not motivated to learn, you take responsibility for that as a teacher. You've got to. We have to take responsibility for the outcomes in our classrooms. That's where it starts from. And if you decide to own, all right, the outcome in your classroom, that will motivate you to begin to study, to look out for how to do better, all right, how to do better. So first, my assumption is you're a great teacher, most likely. So is the readiness, is it as a result of the topic you're teaching, for instance? Does the topic feel like it's too theoretical? And so the children, they're not able to visualize, they're not able to see what you're teaching. You've just got to be able to be a reflective teacher. You've got to reflect, all right? In the course of reflecting, you're trying to troubleshoot and to realize where the problem is coming from. Is it the topic? Is it your methodology? All right? Are you doing a lot more talking than having them chime in here and there, or having them do? Some children are kinesthetic. They learn by doing. Most children, if you check the average classroom, no matter what kind of children, no matter what kind of learner you have, you're going to have a mixture of everything. So you've got to infuse the visual, the audio, all right, and some form of doing. That's what the kinesthetic learner. You've got to do these things. That's where you can improve on their motivation. If you've been doing all of these things, there's something I've recently had to begin to look at with my colleagues, begin to emphasize on. These children we have, these Gen Zs or Gen Alpha, whichever age level, whichever generation you're having to teach. One of the things about them is that they're very smart. They want to know why they're learning what they're learning. So you want to motivate them, you've got to show them the big picture. Why are they learning what they're learning? So we currently have a certain student, he's Lebanese. We are getting to discover that in a sense, he's a special needs child. He's not dyslexic, he's not ADHD. We didn't quite know where to put him on the spectrum, really. And this was not even deciphered really. It wasn't deciphered early because he speaks English so well. He comports himself well, but underneath, he's not been performing properly. He's not been performing well over the years. And we've just been trying to troubleshoot. First, we realized that he cannot take on a lot of subjects. So working with a special needs teacher, we've had to streamline his subjects. And we're having to emphasize on, especially with his teachers, you have to connect what this child is learning with the reason why he has to learn it. You have, as a teacher, hello?
Yeah, please go on. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay, so with this child, who we've not been able to place anywhere on the spectrum, we're getting to learn that this child wants to know why they're learning what they're learning. So the first solution to the problem we had on our hands was realizing that, okay, this child cannot take a lot of bulk like every other child. We streamline his subject. He's not taking more than 6 subjects, right? Number 2, we get to communicate with every teacher. Now, tell this teacher, when you're taking this child, you have to keep letting this child realize the reason why he's learning what he's learning. Connect it with where he's going, what he wants to become in the future. He's in year 11 now, all right, thankfully. So he's really close to the IGCSEs. He's getting to realize that there has to be a reason why he's in your class. So make sure you're carrying him along. So my point really is that as a reflective teacher, you have to troubleshoot. You've got to sit down. You've got to troubleshoot. Please don't do it alone, by all means. Don't do it alone, all right? You've got colleagues who are in the same boat as you are. Ask them questions. Brainstorm together. Brainstorm together. If you've got to reach out, all right, to your circle, the professional circle, please do reach out. Ask, all right? And I believe that very needed help you will get. Amen.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Ogechi. Thank you. So
I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yes, I think you did. So Mr. Fees, your question.
All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate all your efforts. And I've learned a lot, to be precise. I've learned a lot. Although I am currently an international school teacher, but of course, I still want to grow. So my question, let me go straight to the point. My question is, let me tell you a story. One time I applied to a school in Lagos, and in the application requirements, I was asked to provide my current supervisor's letter. Please, Mrs. Ogechi, please, I would like to know how would someone maneuver that, knowing fully well that it might be extremely difficult, especially if you're in a school where you are serving. I mean, they love you, the kids love you, you know. Mr. So, Mr. So, or Miss So. It's always, how would you maneuver such? It has happened to me. If it happened to me twice, I just have to let the work go. And I'm sorry, I don't have the courage to meet my boss. Neither do I have the courage to tell the new school that I cannot provide it. So please assist me. Thank you. That's the end of.
Okay, Mr. Please, I had to use myself to have a good laugh first before coming back on. Thank you for that very, very heartfelt question.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the part. That's usually the bitter part of the recruitment process. When it's time for, what do they typically call that again?
Maybe references.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your reference. Now, in my experience, feedback from reference or getting some sort of your referees what do you call that now? Your referees validation, so to say. That's referee validation. It doesn't usually happen early in the process.
Yeah.
Except the HR person does not know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because like I emphasized earlier, there's a high staff turnover in international schools.
Yeah.
International schools that there's a high staff turnover. So they know, in fact, a lot of great international schools, they're usually very happy to poach the staff of other schools. Okay? They want you to do anything possible to be there for them.
Yeah.
All right? And so I expect them, especially when they're desperate like that, I expect that they shouldn't begin to talk about your referees and validation early on in the process until later.
Yeah.
All right? So in my experience, that did not come early until everything had been cemented. Until I had my letter in my hands.
Yeah.
And then the HR manager came on and said, okay, because we consider this, your referee validation, extremely important in the process, because we can literally resign on this, your employment, if we do not get something from either, in fact, not either, from the two of them. I had to begin to follow up on the two people. All right, please help me write something. Please help me follow up on this. Please send this, all right? So that's the thing. It doesn't usually come early on. That has been my experience. Now, in a situation where you just want to, every school has got their, what do they call that now? There are months of notice, the number of months of notice that you have to give before you. Of course, we know that it cannot always happen. Okay, it can't always happen. In their heart of hearts, they know. Even though my current school has 3 months, I've got to give 3 months notice, or I pay them 3 months in lieu. But I'm sure they remember that in the course of coaching me from the school where I was, I did not even give a 1 month notice. All right. So that's the more reason why they have to, if they have to be honest, they've got to realize that they cannot make that come early on in the application, in the procedure, in the recruitment procedure. That's the bit I know. If Mr. Lekon wants to just bounce off his own ideas, please feel free to do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ogechi. I think you gave a perfect response. Let me just add something to it. I know that every school's got what we call a template. You know, the application form has, every school, they have a unique template. So many times, even when you see that, that they're requesting for it, you can be sure that they would not call your existing employer until they've made a decision to employ you. And even when they do, they don't call your previous employer until after 6 months. Some, they only call them when they want to, when you're off the probationer stage period. So you can be sure that even when you, submit the details of your existing employer and all of that during the application process, you can be sure. I don't think there's any serious HR that will put a call through when the school hasn't made a decision whether or not to employ you. You can be sure of that. By the grace of God, I've worked in 4 schools in 10 years, and I've worked at 3 major international schools, and that's the process. So you can be sure of that even when they are done, making their decision and all that, they will not call your existing employer until you have resumed, and probably until after 6 months or a year. Some will put a call through after 2 years when they're making up their mind whether to offer you permanent employment or not. For some schools, the period of probation is for 6 months. Some other schools would insist on 1 year. I've worked at an international school that insists on 2 years. So it depends on the policy. But you can be sure. Now, what I would advise you to do, depending on the peculiarities of your school, the management of your school, who they are, how vicious they can be, how vindictive, some employers can be vindictive. Okay. So that. That is why I constantly advise that you should have a relationship with your head of department. Sometimes you don't have to drop the contact details of the head of school or maybe the HR. It could be the contact detail of your head of department, your curriculum lead, someone within the system that can vouch for you, someone within the system that is also aware that this person is trying to leave, this person is a good member of staff and all that. Someone in the system that you trust, but you can be sure that they would not call the person or your school until after 6 months, of haven't been employed and all that. Because what they're trying to do is they just want someone that can attest to your professionalism, your expertise, your conduct before they finally make a decision whether to offer you permanent employment after the probation period or not. So so that's also why when you work in a school, even when you don't have access to the head of school, you don't have access to principal officers, how about your head of department? How about some other important individuals within the system? That's also important. So I think, have I been able to?
Fantastic.
Okay.
I think that's absolutely right.
Thank you very much. Very much. That's clear now.
Okay.
I shouldn't
yes, you should. Yes.
I should go for that. Thank you very much. I will go for that. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate
All right. You're welcome.
it.
Yes, so Mrs. Ayo Wumi Akin Fenwa, if I'm correct, you have a question. Ayo Wumi Akin Fenwa.
Oh, I have a question. I only wanted to, yes, I only wanted to ask us to the responses you've given as regards the question of, I think Mrs. Folashade, based on my own experience with students with low learning motivation.
Okay, please go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, your voice is breaking though, but don't worry, go on. Oh, okay. Miss Ayowumi, maybe you have to send it in the chat so we could read it out.
For me, what helped when I was in that scenario? Back.
Okay, I think the signal is very poor. So if you're still with us.
There's a question on the chat while we're waiting for it to clear.
Okay. So yes. So Adetayo says, I want to know if there's the problem of students in discipline, in this international schools as we have in schools nowadays. Miss Ogechi.
Yes, so indiscipline is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. And the fact that I mentioned earlier that there's a constraint, especially having to do with behavior management. There are specific behavior management policies probably permissible in the typical Nigerian school that you cannot employ in this setting. The fact that I said that does not mean that we have any less of that problem of indiscipline from time to time. All right, in our setting. So yes, you want to know if there is a problem. Yes. What your question does not contain is how we manage it outside of the use of corporal punishment. I don't know if that's the
most likely
of your question.
Most likely, yeah.
Yes, we manage it using different and there are a variety of phenomenal strategies out there that you can use as an educator to manage student behavior in the classroom. So first, the idea is get to know what is the school's policy. Right? There is a common factor. Corporal punishment being a no-no is the common factor. Yeah. All right? Okay, so then get to find out what the school's HR policy is. I remember facing the team of interviewers back in BIS, and one of the member of the panel, Mr. Jones, when he asked to know how I manage the student behavior in class, and I told them just something, of course, not corporal punishment. I had for many years, tried to hone my skill, right, in student behavior management in my class. And then he looked at me and said, when I felt I'd said that thing that is a big deal, he looked at me and said, are you adaptable if you get to realize that it's something totally different we implement in our school? I said, absolutely. Whatever you say it is, as long as it does not contravene my value system, why not? I'm very adaptable. So yes, so you've got to know what your school's behavior policy is, and then you adapt. All right, you adapt. And there's so much you can explore. It's online. Just do some reading up of it. All right, do some reading up. Thank you. Now we're getting a flood of. Okay, Mrs. Ayowumi is okay. Mr. Lekon, I think I'll just leave that to you.
Yes, so Mrs. Ayawumi says the teacher needs to be friends with such students. When you gain their trust, it's easy for them to learn to please you. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the teacher also needs to engage the students to identify the problems causing the low, interest. Then practice motivation through encouragement or reward system. Yeah, those are very valid pieces of advice, things to apply. Then I don't know whether we noticed, and I must say this, when Ms. Ogechi started presentation, I don't know whether anybody was perceptive enough to catch that. And that appears to be a common denominator. So if you paid attention to our PowerPoint, so I'm saying this not because she's here. If you paid attention to our PowerPoint, apart from the topic, the title, helping us know what's the focus of our presentation is, the next slide was a starter. Okay, the next slide was a starter. I need educators on this platform to understand that engagement is non-negotiable. Frankly speaking, students will be disruptive in the classroom when they are not engaged. Okay, and she laid emphasis on the necessity of reducing teacher talk time. Okay, remember that emphasis is on international schools. In international schools, teachers are facilitators. You facilitate learning. Okay, and one of the indices of facilitation is that your TT is low. Your teacher talk time. You're not competing with your students, you're facilitating. And I saw that play out in our PowerPoint. Okay, so after the topic, helping us identify the focus of the presentation, the next thing she did was a starter, something to get us thinking, something to get us talking. And what was it? She said, she asked us to identify 10 qualities. And that was how Ms. Ogechi was able to identify and connect with a number of the participants here. So if you notice, she's been calling a Mr. Who's the Mr.? Mr. Samuel. She also identified a Miss Dami. That was how she could know that there's someone here who works in an international school and all of that. Okay, so starters, we must begin to practice engagement. We must begin to ensure that our lessons draw the students in. Our lessons offer them an avenue to speak, to collaborate. Our lessons, when students have that platform, when students know that, oh, during Ms. Ogechi's lesson, I'm free to express myself, I'm free to contribute to the learning process. I have a chance to collaborate. I have a chance to think, pair, and share, and all of that. It helps them to look forward to your class. So they will be less disruptive by experience. That is what I've noticed. Okay. But if it is just all about the teacher talking. So if you notice, we've been on the webinar for 2 hours. Okay. And nobody's bored. Okay. Now, not only because we've been learning a lot from Mrs. Ogechi, but also because she's done her best to ensure that the session is interactive. That also offers our students a sense of ownership. They don't think that you are the alpha and the omega, you are the emperor in the class. They feel that they are equally involved in what goes on during the lesson. Okay, so if you're teaching for 60 minutes, you would notice that your students are engaged. Fine, I understand that there's still a few of them, okay, that regardless, they would still, but that's why they're teenagers, let's not forget, okay? But we have a responsibility. So if you notice, there was the topic, there was the starter, and then there was a point where she communicated the objective of the lesson, the presentation. That was clear, so that, and that helped us to understand the learning outcomes. She asked us what our expectations are, and that helped every single participant to connect. I connected, okay, and I'm sure we also connected. We need to start inculcating all of this in the classroom, whether we are doing the job in the private sector or we're doing it in the public sector. If you want to transit to international schools from the public sector, you need to start practicing this. I'm so sure, okay, that if a public school teacher is invited for an interview, maybe at Riverbank or maybe BIS, maybe Day Waterman or any of the leading international schools, and you are invited for an interview, and at some point they ask you to have micro teaching, and they see starter, learning objectives, and all that, they would be impressed because these aren't things they would expect from educators coming from the public sector, not because educators from the public sector don't have these things, but because the system does not necessarily lay emphasis on them. So it's one of the things that will raise their curiosity and say, okay, we need to pay attention to this person, and they'll be more interested. Okay, so we need all of this because it would not only help ensure engagement, okay, and decrease disruption during learning, okay, but it will also put us out. When people come for interviews and have the opportunity to be there, especially during micro teaching, these are things I look out for. I want to see your PowerPoint presentation. I want to see what you can do in 20 minutes. I want to see how you are able to reduce your teacher talk time, how you're able to encourage your students to, how you're able to facilitate learning, and then I want to see how every single student is engaged. There's no sleeping student, there's no wandering, drifting students and all of that. Okay, I've also learned it. Thank you, Ms. Ogechi. Thank you. So I think, okay, so let me just read a few things in the chat box. Some person sent messages. Okay, so someone said, Ayowumi, for a student I had at the time, I found out that he's not encouraged at home, knew his future ambition, after which I put a call through to someone in that same field by video call. He was elated. The individual encouraged him to be a better learner. From then improved. The improvement remains in 4 years. Fantastic. Okay, so this is a teacher and going out of the classroom, okay, ensuring a video call so that the student, and that's another thing we also we can do exchange programs in our classroom. Okay, nothing stops you. All right. Connecting with a teacher somewhere in Zurich, connecting with a teacher somewhere in America, if you share the same curriculum, especially when you are reading the same text. For those in the humanities, if you're reading the same text, if it's, if you're studying, so for example, let's say you're studying a text by Wole Soyinka, and and then you notice that maybe somewhere in Europe, a school also is studying the same text. Okay, it isn't bad to have, that cultural exchange via Zoom. Okay, there are different platforms we could, and this has a way of, encouraging the kids, getting them interested in your lessons, and all of that. Thank you, thank you. Practice various learning methods too until you hit the right spot. Yes. Now I want us to do something. So Mrs. I call her Miss Ogechi, okay, but she's married though. At least we heard the voices of our kids. Okay. All right. I want us to go on LinkedIn and I want you to follow us. So one of the things that has helped me is I've learned to shadow leaders, leaders in the education sector. Okay. So our name is Ogechi Ikechi. I want us to search for our name on LinkedIn, and I want you to follow us, send a connection request. Okay. I intentionally go through people's profile. If you're one of those people that think it is insulting or beneath you to check people's profile, and then they'll say, somebody checked your profile. Why are you checking? No, I go through people's profile online, to see the certifications they are adding and all that. And then I chat them up to say, please, how did you come about this? I chatted Ms. Ogechi, I think a year ago when she got when she became Canada certified as an educator and all of that, Yes, I didn't chat you up. I think somebody did. He then shared the process on LinkedIn. I remember. Yes. So, please, I want everybody to follow our LinkedIn, send that connection request. Why do I do that? Why do I encourage that? I do that and I encourage that because it's easier. Okay, so you get notified whenever they put up something instantly. Instantly, you get notified. You don't have to start going to their page to check what they are doing. As soon as she puts up something, you are notified, you can see it, you can read it, you can follow, and this is how we learn, this is how we grow. Okay, she's at Riverbank School. I'm sure that if you participated, I'm so sure, okay, that she's going to note your CV when you send it. I'm so sure that it will be quite easy for her to identify and say, oh, Mr. Samuel, oh, okay, so you attended one of the webinars and all of that, So basically, this is networking. Okay, I really need us to identify this is an opportunity to network. All right, and for some of us looking forward to joining these international schools, I hope Riverbank will be first on your list now that you know that you've met Ms. Okechi. But you can be sure, okay, that she's not going to put in a word for you if you don't demonstrate competence. Okay, so you understand. So we have to do our part, so that it's easier for us to say, oh, I think this person is good enough for this role. All right. Thank you, Ms. Ogechi. Thank you so much for accepting to speak. Thank you for giving us 2 solid hours of your time as a teacher leader, as a mom, as a wife, as everything. Thank you so much. We don't take this for granted. Thank you. And we look forward to having you again. Does anyone want to appreciate Ms. Ogechi? Anyone? So we would allow only 2 people to speak, just 2 persons. Anyone? Anyone? Yes, Mr. Samuel. Yes, please.
All right, thank you. Ms. Okechi, we want to appreciate you for this presentation. Personally, I've learned, I'm encouraged, I'm motivated,
Yeah.
and I hope to do more in my desire to transit into the international schools. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Yeah, what do you teach, Mr. Samuel? What do you teach?
I teach ICT, data processing, computer science.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Riverbank will be the first school to get your CV.
Yeah.
All right, good. Yeah, so we want.
If you haven't sent it, you should send it in, by the way.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I think you should send it in. Chat me up so that I can give you the HR's email.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Miss. Thank you, Miss.
Thank
so we
you.
want a lady, we want a female to speak. We've heard from a man appreciating Miss Ogechi. We want a female to speak. Any female in the house? Yes, Miss Moji Sola. You have the floor. Miss Moji Sola. You have the floor, please.
Okay. Good evening once again.
Good evening.
Personally, I want to appreciate Ms. Ogechi, Mrs. Ogechi.
Okay, so Ms. Falashade is saying, thank you, Ma, for your time. God bless you. Ms. Moji Sola, I guess your network. Okay, so she's also saying, thank you so much. Okay, please go on.
So I like I said, I really appreciate, I can see the passion, towards this profession while you were talking. It was like 2 hours to you, you can still continue. I can see that talking about being passionate towards this work, and I really appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
And I believe God Almighty to continue to open greater doors unto you.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Leko, thank you for this opportunity.
I should say that. All right, so we recorded the session and I'm uploading it right away on the YouTube channel. Okay, so we have a YouTube channel. Okay, so let's feel free to share with people if we need to go over. I'm also so sure that Ms. Ogechi would send the PowerPoint, okay, which I would share with everybody on the WhatsApp group. Okay, the next webinar is in December. All right, and we would unveil the topic and the speaker soon. Ms. Ogechi, thank you so much. Thank you for accepting to speak. Thank you for motivating us. Thank you for the enlightenment. Thank you. All right. So I think we have to call it a day here. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Thank you for participating. Thank you for the questions. Thank you. We'll see you later in December. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Lekon. God bless you.
You're welcome, sir. You're welcome.
Good night. Bye.